What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a WTBS NCAA Top 10. And I know Ben's really looking forward to this one because of some of the events on Saturday. And I don't want to hold it too much long before we get into it. So I'm just going to go over the top 10, and then we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of why we're here and what we're talking about. So let's break it down. Ben, my top 10 right here. Number one, Georgia. That didn't change. That stays the same. Number two, Michigan. Michigan is number two. Number three, Florida State. You know, that win over LSU was pretty nice. It seems to be aging well. And here's the newbie into the top 10. Somebody I was reluctant to put in. Ben wanted me to put him in since week one. You know, he's been enthusiastic about it. I'm a little more trepidatious because I don't want to jinx my team. Number four, Texas. Number five, USC. Now we got a drop. What was number four previously is Ohio State. They dropped. They played Youngstown State, and they only scored 7 more points than they did on Indiana. Youngstown State is a big drop-off in talent. You should be putting up 40, 50 points on a Youngstown State, and they were not able to. We had to see two quarterbacks. Kyle McCord did win the job over the weekend. We did like what he did a little bit more, but they're still running the ball way more than they're passing it. When you have all those Ferraris in that offense, that makes no sense.
So, new quarterback.
No, we're going to go with the week one. The guy who had it originally, he ended up winning it out. Last weekend, they did the two, Kyle McCord and the other kid. McCord was easily the better guy.
Okay.
The other kid's number 33, bro. He looks like a running back or something out there playing quarterback. It didn't make no sense. You don't choose 33 if you're quarterback. That's just weird.
Yeah. Okay.
Number 7, Penn State. You know, I'm not going to move them up or down. They stay the same. Number 8, who I really want to start moving up because I think they're a fringe playoff team, Notre Dame. They did have a bad weather game. It was delayed. And in the fourth quarter, they just exploded. And that's a scary Notre Dame if they play like that, the way they played in the fourth quarter. Number 9, Washington. And number 10, Tennessee. A team that did get kicked out of the top 10 this week for me was Alabama. That is a team that is no longer, in my eyes, a top 10 team the way they played and what they showed at home at Bryant-Denny. Ben, criticize my list. What do you like? What don't you like?
Just real quick, so how many new teams do we have debuting into the top 10? I know
we got Tennessee coming at 10, and then we got Texas jumped up to number 4, claiming the 4th spot.
Okay, and then we only had Alabama leaving, or who was the second team that left?
Alabama left, and who did I have last week at 10? I believe it was...
That's interesting.
Dude, I can't. Let me pull it up real quick.
Well, I'll just talk about it while you do look that up. I'm surprised that you had Texas above USC. You are right. I have been kind of speaking it into existence since week one with Texas, although I am very bullish on them. You know, I'm the type of guy that Texas is back every year, right? But that's the team that I do it with. Awesome performance. We'll get into that one a little bit. Love that you have them above USC, though, because they definitely have a better win than any of USC's. Although USC has been stomping out, you know, the 3 opponents that they played this past week was against Stanford. And, I mean, they had 38, 40 points at halftime. Yep. So, yeah, USC, we got to see them get tested. But you know what? I mean, I like the top 10. I think Notre Dame, I don't know. I'm not sure if Notre Dame was in the top 10 last week.
They were not. They were the team that was not in there either. Okay. It was Oregon that dropped down out of 10 spot.
Yeah, Oregon squeaked one out against Texas Tech. Not too impressive, especially after seeing Texas Tech lose week 1 to
Wyoming.
To Josh Allen's alma mater. But so yeah, I really like Notre Dame. I think that at the end of the year, I think Notre Dame is that playoff type team. They have the quarterback, their coach. You know, little rocky start last year, but seems like the whole team, the program has bought in to the new head coach. And, I mean, they're rocking on all cylinders, bro. The defense, you know, does get scored on a bit. That was a game on the road, you know, against a North Carolina State team that is respectable. But still, to win on the road and the way that they did, they were up at halftime. I know it was a rocky third quarter, and in the fourth, they kind of just stepped on the gas. But I'm really impressed with Notre Dame. They're somebody that I expect to be in my Final Four at the end of the year. Yeah. You know, off the top of my head, I know that they have a pretty tough game coming up soon, but I don't know exactly how tough their schedule is, as we know that they're one of those conference-less teams, one of those independent.
2 weeks.
What's that?
Notre Dame plays Ohio State in 2 weeks.
Okay, so Notre Dame I believe, will beat Ohio State, and
I
that's
feel
going to
like
be
that's
the
the
team.
case.
Yeah, that's going to be the game that probably jumps them into your top 4. USC's got some tough games. Texas going to have to play Oklahoma. Georgia's I think is the only lock, I would say, to be in the playoffs, just based on the weakness in their schedule.
Yeah,
But I like the new faces in your
schedule.
top 10. Personally, I would not have had Tennessee in the top 10. I think I might have kept Oregon there, or maybe that's where I would have bumped Bama too. I used to have an old military buddy. Shout out Shadow Treadway.
I remember
Big,
playing Xbox with him.
yeah, big, Vols fan. Had the whole
Biden
family,
fan.
in the orange checkered, suspenders on game day. And he's somebody that randomly hits me up whenever the Titans are doing well or the Vols are doing well. I'll get on Facebook Instant Messenger, Shadow Treadway, and I know exactly what it's going to be about. He hasn't hit me up this year about the Vols. And I've been looking. I'm not saying I've seen any of their games, but just watching box score and highlights, they just don't look like they have the juice. I mean, we know that they lost Hendon Hooker to the NFL and the new quarterback. They're just not putting points up on the board. It reminds me a lot of what we're seeing with Ohio State.
Yeah.
So I personally wouldn't have Tennessee in the top 10. I think they're a 2 or 3 loss team at the end of the year.
Well, to be honest, Ben, I think a lot of these teams in the top 10 could be a 2 or 3 loss team. I think this is the first year we might even see a 2-loss team hit the 4th spot at a playoff. I think it's wide open for a lot of these teams. I really do. Because if you don't put Tennessee, you put Oregon back in the mix. You can't tell me the way Oregon played and looked Saturday that they're not also a 2-loss team potentially.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So I see your point. Like I said, I haven't done a deep dive too much into the schedules. I'm kind of here with you, to recap. I do watch all the games live. So when they happen, I'll have seen them. I got something to say about them. But college football, I haven't dove too deep into the schedules besides Texas. So I'll take you for your word. Texas. There's a lot of 2-loss teams that may be at the end of the season.
I think there will be. Let's get into Texas, man. 34-24 is the final on the box score. Ben, that is not, that's a close box score. That's 10 points, but that is not the tell of the game. Texas easily left 17 points on the board on third down twice, 2 drop passes in the end zone, one to Xavier Worthy that was just, on his hands on a slip route outside, and then one crossing down the middle. Adonai Mitchell drops one, and we left a field goal up. So a total of 17 points that we left on the board. This game could have been a lot different. And I want to harp on last week when we talked about Rice, and I said, hey, Rice was getting to our quarterback. I'm worried about the offensive line, Ben. I said, I think we got the skill position that's better than Alabama. Our quarterback's better. Our receivers are better. But that defensive line is going to get to us. Was I wrong about that? Quinn Ewers was able to stand in the pocket for most of the game and deliver 40-yard throw, 30-yard throw. Jatavian Sanders here. Adonai Mitchell out here. Xavier Worthy deep bomb. I was completely wrong about the interior dogs that we had. They showed up and showed out Saturday night. What do you think about that? About me being wrong about our O-line?
Yeah, like I had mentioned last week when we were kind of previewing into the game, this was where not only Sarkisian, not only Quinn Ewers, but the entire team had to put their balls on the table, bro. And, it starts in the trenches. Alabama always known for their defensive line, so it's a surprise to all of us that Quinn Ewers was as clean as he was, when the game ended. Like you mentioned, he was making a lot of deep throws, really good balls, and but 40-yard passes, 50-yard passes, you got to have some time in the pocket in order to deliver good throws on those. I hope that you ask us about our receiving core, because that is my only beef with the Longhorns this year. But shout out to the O-line, shout out to the trenches. Yeah. They dominated the game. I think we even ran the ball really well. So pass blocking and run blocking, I think the O-line set the tone and dominated.
Ben, this is the most brutal roster Texas has to face on its schedule. The second team that has a pretty good roster that Texas will have to face is Oklahoma. Now, last year we played a similar Oklahoma team. We beat them in the Red River rivalry 49-0. You got to think that, yes, they didn't have their starting quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, for that game. But is Dylan Gabriel going to be worth 49 points this year? So the question starts to become not, if Texas, if they
Don't
can do
say
it,
it.
if they
Don't
can win the
say
big
it.
game,
Don't say it.
it becomes will they do it in the big games? They showed they can. They rose up at Bryant Denny. They won at Titletown. Will you see Texas? I'm gonna say start to get on track. I'm not gonna say Texas is back. Would you think Texas starting to get on
Just
track
don't say the U word. I
with
just
this win?
don't.
Do you think they're getting back on track?
Definitely getting back on track. I mean, you saw them having fun on the sidelines as well. If you saw after the game the interview, with Sarkisian, and then the way he just walked over to the Texas, fan section and really took it in, throwing his horns up, proud as hell. Like we said, this was a big game for him. He was facing his sensei, Nick Saban, the
Yep.
guy who pretty much gave him another shot after he
Yep.
got fired at Washington, for drinking on the job and all the other problems that he had.
Yeah.
But he beat the Sensei at home in a game that Texas really needed. You had him out of your top 10 and even Texas fans like that aren't as gullible as I am, right? I'm honest. I'm a Texas's back guy every year when we're 0-0, baby. But Justin hadn't put him in the top 10, through 2 weeks, didn't start them there. And not only is like ESPN and the AP poll and everybody else going to start doing it, but I mean now even the Texas fans that I just don't want you to jinx it and say the U word, but I think if they get past Oklahoma, we're looking like a possible 2 seed if we can get through Oklahoma, and keep a healthy Quinn Ewers throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, I totally agree. What's the U word that you're looking for? I'm not going to say it, but what is that word?
Just
what is it end with? What's the last letter?
Yeah, feeded.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to say that. The media is going to be driving this narrative that Texas is back. That's what they want to say. But as seasoned fans, we know we've risen to these things. We've played the Georgias in Sugar Bowls. We've played good teams. We've beat them before, and then we lose teams we shouldn't lose to. Tech at home, West Virginia. I think that we're a different Texas team this year. I really do believe it's getting on track. I really believe Sark has them turned around, and to go out and win at Bryant Denny proves that this Texas team is a little bit different than past Texas teams.
Yeah, man.
Anything else you want to bring up about this game or the Horns' future this year?
Yeah, I want to talk about the defense. I think the defense is nails. I'm not saying that they're Georgia, but damn, they fly around. They're fast. You saw the interception. Number 0. Shout out number 0.
Anthony Hill, 0.
A freshman. Yes.
Yeah. Overshown's replacement.
Yeah, definitely beast. So the defense has a lot of dogs. I feel like there's like culture at Texas, and it's not just that boys club that Alabama would say, oh yeah, we're gonna go play the boys club over there that Mac Brown kind of created after the national championship. But it feels like they've turned it around. They have some culture. They have some grit to them. And like I said, my only beef, man, the wide receiving core. I mean, I know that Worthy, I believe it was, made that beautiful catch over the shoulders, but they don't help Quinn Ewers that much, man. They drop. I mean, if you saw the catches the Alabama wide receivers were making in traffic,
yeah,
I mean, my God. And our guys, they would touch the ball, and then a DB would come
dropping
in and
open passes.
Yeah, it's annoying me a little bit because yes, they're good. Yes, they get open, but it's a lot of drops, man. It's a lot of drops. Like you said, leaving 17 points on the table against a team like Alabama, usually you're going to lose that game. But Texas dominated that game, to be honest. It was – there was never a time when I was watching that game that I doubted that they were going to win. Even when they were up and Alabama scored, after half or whatever.
16-13 after the half.
Yeah, it just like they were making Alabama work, bro. They were really making Alabama work. Monroe didn't do much with his legs. The defense is fast.
The running back, 3.1 yards per carry. That's it. Yeah, Alabama's a 5 yards per carry running back usually every year, every game.
It was a really, really good performance by the defense. I think that they're legit. And yeah, just the receivers. I mean, let's shore up those hands. Yeah, it seems like everybody's got a case of the yips and at the same time. So I just hope that they shore that up. And I think that
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Ben, because this team's defense is good enough to, like, sometimes our offense gets slow and they have slow starts. This team's defense is good enough to, like, hey Quinn, third quarter, step it up now. It's time to get going. Click on offense. This team's not going to be letting up points, and then we're out of the game, and Quinn has to throw us back in.
Right. Yeah, they're going to keep us in a
Yeah,
lot of games, even when we have
yeah,
slow starts. Like, for
yep,
example, the Rice game was a slow start. Yes, it was a big time inferior opponent, right? If we
yeah,
started the same way that we started against Rice with Alabama, the defense we would have been hanging around just because of the defense. We
yes,
would have maybe been down 3 or down 7 at half, but the defense would have kept us hanging around. But I mean, it seems like the Longhorns had this game circled. It seems like that Rice game, I didn't really overreact because it was just drop passes in that first half to me. In the Rice game and second half, they got it right. This game was circled. This is what they were looking for. Call it their national championship in week 2, whatever. It's a statement for the season. You lose this game and you probably can say goodbye to the national title
yeah.
because Alabama's going to have a couple of losses this year. They're not, you know what I mean? I don't want to take down Texas's win, but Alabama, they dominated Alabama, and Alabama usually doesn't get dominated.
Yeah.
So I
This is
think that,
definitely a look back game for Texas and Alabama. 10 weeks from now, they're going to look back at this game and we're going to find out, hey, was Alabama any good? They just lost to a good Texas, or just Texas beat Alabama, and Alabama is good and Texas is not because they lost to teams they shouldn't. This is going to be the
right.
look back game. It's a fulcrum game for both teams to look back on. But let's move on. Let's get to the most watched game on Saturday. It continues to rule the narrative of college football, and that's Deion Prime Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes 36-14 over Matt Rule's Nebraska Cornhuskers. Ben, Shador Sanders delivers again. What did you think about this game?
Yeah, slow start, a little bit of a hangover after that week 1, but the defense really hung around. I know a lot of people thought that Nebraska was going to be able to run on Colorado just because of what we saw TCU do in the second half, in that week 1 game. But the defense, speaking of keeping your team in the game, the defense, hung around, and then the Buffs started clicking right before halftime, and the momentum just kept going in the second half. They look really good, man. They're going to be playing on prime time just about every Saturday. Pun intended with Deion, but it's I don't want listen, they're not going to go undefeated. I want to see how the team reacts after a loss. And I'm not
Yeah,
even saying on the field. I want to see, what Deion has lost before, but right now they're at the top of the mountain, boy, and it's only week 2. And hey, so are the Longhorns, right? But the Longhorns had some pretty good expectations going into this year. We're talking about a Colorado team that had a win total of 2.5, 3.5 games. So I do want to see them lose, see how they respond. They have Oregon coming up. They have USC coming up. They have some tough games coming up. I'm still not ready to say, I mean, maybe, next week or in 2 weeks, we see them crack your top 10 if they're still undefeated. But I don't know if they are a top 10 team. I definitely think they're a top 25 team.
well, we get to see in September 30, they're going to play USC, and that will tell us everything.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Before that, their roster, I think, is pretty much served for them. I think they do got Oregon before USC. So September 23rd, they're going to face Oregon, which is a top 15 team, and then they go to USC and they play them September 30th. So that's back-to-back games.
That's
Their next
tough.
game, September 16th against Colorado State. They should win that game.
Yeah, they're about 20-some point favorites, but then you might get them as underdogs, 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
In those matchups that you talked about. Are they going to Eugene, or is that game in Colorado, in Boulder?
At Eugene, and then USC's at home.
Okay. So, and even with USC coming in, I do think USC is going to be favored just based off what Caleb Williams has been doing and, just preseason where they were ranked also. But them going to Eugene, they're probably going to be, a 4 to 7 point underdog, I would say, in 2 weeks after Colorado State. But that's when the test is going to be. And like I said, I'm not rooting on them to lose. It's just they're not the type of team that's going to go undefeated. They need to get some depth. And that depth usually shows when you're playing those bigger teams.
And their best players playing on both sides of the ball, and that's not going to be sustainable against these teams.
It might be, but I'm just saying when you're subbing in those second string defensive linemen and those third string, they're just not. the USC's defense isn't even that good, but the athletes that they get there are just far more talented. You know what I mean?
Yeah, though there's a difference in the
In two
three-star
or
athlete
in,
that goes to USC than the one that goes to Colorado
right
at this point.
in 2 or 3 years, obviously Dion's going to be at that same level just based off the success they're already having. How many
That's the
kids are
big
going to want to
question.
go play for him? He's going to get that depth on the team in 2 to 3 years.
Okay, but Ben, that's the question though.
There's no doubt, bro.
Is Dion there in 2 to 3 years, or is
Well,
he in the SEC coaching? Because if he has a successful season, he
I think
has his pick of the litter in SEC jobs at that point.
I still think he's not going to go to the SEC. I know Florida's not going to fire their coach because they're doing well, but I think that was his chance. I don't think that he leaves Colorado that fast. The Pac-12 is good. You think that he's just
Pac-12 is not going to exist.
It might not exist, but
there's only 2 teams left.
Where's Colorado going to end up? Are they going to the Big 12? Where are they going back to the Big 12?
They're going to go back to the Big 12.
So I mean, that's not that bad. I don't see him leaving Colorado unless it's for Florida State. Put it that way.
Yeah, Florida State's not getting rid of their coach
because he's going to have to restart all over again. I mean, I know his son's going to be leaving after this year, but you don't want to restart everything all over again. Like, build up Colorado. People will go play in Colorado, bro. People love it out there in
nice
Denver,
state.
Colorado. Yeah,
nice state. We'll see. I just think he's meant for the bigger things, and I think the SEC is going to call his name, and he might answer.
Like, what type of team? Like, Auburn's probably going to have a horrible season this year. Like, let's say an Auburn calls.
That's a better spot than Colorado. The recruiting, alumni putting in money, that's going to help when you get these NIL deals. He's going to be able to get better prospects.
They're probably doing it at Colorado now that he's
there. Remember this. Colorado AD still had to figure out how he was going to come up with the money to pay Dion. So Colorado's alumni are not going into the program all the way.
I know, but now with what they're doing and being on TV every single week,
the Pac-12's TV deal is not that great. Now, if he moves to the Big 12, the Big 12 TV deal is very rich, and that would help.
And not even then, but he might be playing on a different set of rules than all the other coaches, bro. I mean, this is a Colorado team with very bad expectations this year, and here they've been on Big Fox 2 weeks in a row. At prime time at 11 o'clock.
First game, everyone's
kickoff.
Watching.
So I don't think that I'm putting Dion there. It's separate. This is, that Conor McGregor treatment in the UFC. Call it whatever you will. I mean,
he does get his logo on all the Colorado merch. I don't know if you've seen that. The Prime logo gets to be put on there. So he's probably getting every little percentage off any Colorado shirt that gets sold too.
They figured a way to pay him, and it's
I know. I'm just saying that when he got hired, that was the thing.
I think he'll take pride in building Colorado into what people might call a powerhouse. And like we both said, that's not
the ones who gave him a chance. So
yeah,
it's not impossible what you're saying. I'm not saying it is. But I think that's it for Colorado. I want to harp on Nebraska. They're in a worse spot than they were with Scott Frost. I continue to believe that Matt Rule isn't the guy.
Stop.
And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think they're going to realize that a lot faster.
Stop.
They're in a worse spot.
And they're definitely not.
Yes, they are. Oh, yes, they are. We're going to see at the end of the season.
They should have won against Minnesota. The QB threw the game away. They'd be 1-1. I mean, he's got to find his guys. It's year one. And he doesn't have his son.
Time's year one, too.
He doesn't have his son to bring over and quarterback.
Colorado was in a worse spot last year than Nebraska. Nebraska inherited the better team. There was better athletes.
Right, but when you're talking about the window and where they brought the players,
I think at the end of the year, we're going to start seeing Matt Rule early on the hot seat, especially since he has no real ties to Nebraska like Scott Frost did, at least.
I don't think so.
All right. Let's move into this week's games. We're going to talk about 2 games. There's no top 25 teams facing each other. I normally only like to talk about the top 25 matchups, but Bren's bringing us 2 teams. Number 11, Tennessee. That's in the AP poll. They're ranked number 11. -6.5 favorites over the Florida Gators, Billy Napier's Gators. Ben, what do you like about this game? Tennessee at home. You said they weren't as explosive as they were last year. Completely agree with that. They are not. But Billy Napier's without Emory Jones. He treated him bad last year. The quarterback is now transferred out of Florida. He won't be with him this game. What do you think?
Yeah, Rocky Top is going to be rocking. I'll tell you that.
Oh hell yeah.
But this is a classic SEC matchup. I mean, I
Mhm.
understand that it's a down year for the Gators, but they're still, inside of a touchdown on the spread. Like I said, I think it's a down year for Tennessee as well.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the Gators are horrible. If they get blown out here, they're horrible, but I expect this to be a pretty competitive game just based off what I told you that the little that I've seen out of Tennessee and how they lack explosiveness. I don't think they'll be able to pull away from a team like Florida. This is just your old fashioned SEC matchup. Every year, this is a classic SEC showdown. It's just Florida's missing that number next to their logo this year, but this is one that I'll be tuning into this Saturday. This will be my first, time watching a full Tennessee game this year. I expect it to be competitive.
Yeah. So Tennessee's two games this year has been Virginia and Austin PE. They beat Virginia 49-13, and then they beat Austin PE 30-13. Austin PE is devoid of talent. To beat them
Yeah,
30-13 shows that you're not on the level you were last year.
and
And Florida
Virginia's
will be
trash
a
too.
step up for them.
Yeah, Virginia's 0-2. They just lost to
Yeah.
James Madison. That's an in-state rivalry with James Madison being little brother going up and playing Virginia. They end up winning that game, and Virginia's now 0-2. So this is going to be a huge step up in competition, albeit a down year for the Gators. But I expect it to be competitive, bro. I think that this is like a 2:30, if I'm not mistaken, on
This is 6
Saturday.
p.m. It's Saturday night game. It's going to be like
Okay, so it's
the
prime
premier
time.
game. Yeah, prime
Gotcha.
time. Yeah, and Florida, they played Utah on opening night. They were the first game of the season. They did get beat 24-11, but honestly, Florida was in that game for a second. They really were. And I think this game is going to be very competitive. I think they cover. I think the game's going to be closer than 6.5.
Yeah, Florida wins here. They're probably back in the top 25. So I mean, this is a good get right game. Utah, I believe, is a better team than Tennessee is. And plus, it was that first week. We saw our Longhorns start off slow for a whole half against Rice. You do that against a team like Utah, you're going to find yourself in a hole. That's what happened for the Gators. So, like, I agree with you. I like them to cover this.
Yeah. All right, now let's get to the other game Ben wants to talk about. Number 8, Washington traveling to Michigan State University. The Spartans, Ben, they will be without Mel Tucker, their head coach. The Spartans head coach, depending on where you're hearing from, has either been fired or suspended for inappropriate behavior. He was having phone sex with a insubordinate, and they caught him masturbating,
A
and
la
that's the issue.
madre.
I mean, the whole thing's out, bro. I
Holy
mean, it's
smokes.
it's bad.
In his
Mel Tucker
office? Where was
does.
this happening, bro?
I don't know, in his
You don't
office
know
or
the
something.
details like that. You don't know those details. All right, my bad.
Yeah,
My bad.
so Mel Tucker is from the Nick Saban coaching tree. He was a Colorado head coach before he went to Michigan State. Michigan State ends up beating Michigan. They paid Mel Tucker a humongous bag. They gave this man unlimited money at Michigan State. And now he is suspended or fired, depending on what reports you're reading. It does look like it's heading towards a firing, regardless, considering the allegations. I think it's got to be Washington covering that spread at this point. I don't think this Michigan State team is going to be motivated. And not only that, I'm sure some kids are almost hoping he gets fired so they can transfer out, because the rule is if the head coach gets fired, they're allowed to transfer without penalty.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they throw those kids a bone and fire. That sounds like some pretty rowdy,
Yeah,
allegations.
it is.
So what? If it's suspended, if he's fired, I think it's probably fired. Like you said, there's mixed reports. We'll probably know the truth by tomorrow, whether he's fired or just suspended. I'm sure Michigan State has to put out some sort of statement. But I saw Michigan State play week one. Uh, they kind of lack firepower. I was surprised to see this spread at 16, but it is Washington coming into, Sparty, which usually is a tough place to play. We know how close those sidelines are to the stands, and it feels like the fans are on top of you when you're playing there. Penix, the quarterback for Washington, been lighting it up.
Guys, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I did not know that all this was happening with their coach. Maybe I don't want to say that that's why it's 16, because the coach isn't worth that many points, at least not him. But man, maybe Washington just goes in there and waxes these dudes if everybody's kind of giving up on the season and just waiting for the decision of if the coach is gone or not.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to be the case, honestly.
A lot of times, though, when the coach leaves, you see the team kind of rally that first game, go out there, and I don't know if they're
But they
playing.
usually do it for the coach. In this case, this coach is not the guy that's going to motivate them to do this.
But maybe they're doing it like, damn, hell yeah, this guy's gone. Let me ball out now so I can get out of here. Yeah, it works both
It's a
ways.
tough
So
environment,
the
man. It is.
spread, yeah, the spread's saying that it's going to be what the way it's going to go the way you're saying. So yeah, minus 16 points, 3 possession spread, 2 possession with 2 2-point conversions. But yeah, this is probably Washington for sure.
Are you watching this game, Ben? Because this one's on Peacock.
If it's a late game, I'll be watching it.
4
but
p.m.
4 p.m., I will not be watching it. No.
You know, this weekend's game, Longhorns, they will be on the Longhorn Network. So hopefully y'all have access to that. I, normally hate when it's on the Longhorn Network because my normal cable provider does not have the channel. But luckily for me, I do got ways to watch the game.
A lot of ways. What's the spread for the Longhorns this weekend? They got to be huge favorites, right?
I want to say the last I saw it was like 21 or more.
Okay. Yeah, let's
hate those kind of spreads.
Let's hope it's not that letdown spot for them, right? That hangover after a big Alabama, but it is at home. It should be a sold out stadium supporting them after that big win.
They better go crazy for them, bro.
I know I got invited to the game this weekend too, and I had to turn it down because.
Have you seen the response by fans on X, formerly known as Twitter, to the AD Del Conte, Texas Longhorns athletic director?
No, what responding to what?
So they want to get the crowd rocking. They want the Mo Bamba song playing, and they want the whole crowd going along with it. And there's this song, a country song called about if you're gonna play in Texas, you got to have a fiddle in the band. You know that song? Well, Brian Denny, they always do the Alabama country music song that they do.
Right.
So they want to kind of mimic that and get the crowd going and be real positive and just really have an electric college football atmosphere. That's something that's lacked at Texas for quite some time, getting the crowd going, and they don't want that no more. The kids are really hyped about this win, and they want to show out for the players. So I'm really excited about getting to hear the stadium rock Saturday night.
And and it's kind of been hard because like they've been letting everybody down. We've been through, this is our third head coach in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah,
Herman, Charlie Strong, and now
Chuck.
And now here, and it was like, oh, if this guy doesn't do it this season, we might. And we're landing guys like Arch Manning and whatnot. Like, man, pump the brakes, right?
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I said yes. I agree.
Yeah, so I'm glad that Sark got it done. Really happy for Texas. I hope that the AD lets them, rock out now that everybody's kind of bought in. I'm really looking forward to the season, man. I think the Red River rivalry is in maybe a month or less. So, yeah, we're going to know exactly the trajectory of their season after that game, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. If we don't go out and just blow out the doors off of Wyoming, it's going to show me a lot. This is a Wyoming team that shouldn't be keeping up with the Texas team and the talent they have.
They beat
If we go and blow them out and we take care of our job, man, I really like what I see from Texas at that point. I really do.
Yeah,
let's avoid the hangover.
Yeah, Wyoming played Tech tough, but it's a Tech team that really just hasn't been good since Crabtree left. If we're being real. Yeah, so let's go out there. Let's get it done. Let's cover that spread, and then we'll be back next week to hopefully. I don't know if we're gonna move them up anymore off of a Wyoming win, but hopefully they keep their spot at number 4 because they could go out there and look like Ohio State, right, and maybe drop a spot or two just off that hangover.
Let's hope not. Ben, anything else for College Football Saturday that you want to talk about? I'm sure we'll be here next week to see who stayed in the top 10, who moved up, who moved down. Because I got a feeling, like I said, there's some 2-loss teams in that top 10 sitting right now. I really feel like we're going to get some movement.
I'm going to be on record saying you're going to get Tennessee out of the top 10. I know that they are the number 10 team, but maybe they'd have to lose for you to bounce them out of there. Maybe they just,
or Oregon just performs really well again, and then we flip
right. Them. Yeah, you never know. But Tennessee, I don't think they're top 10. I really don't.
All right. Well, I think that's it for the top 10 this week. We will see you back next Tuesday, more than likely.
Yep.
Peace.